Human mechanic fed two hungry little refugee dragons. 5 years later, the Empress G. Beginning, the stray flames. The twin moons of Irela. 9 hung low over the scrapyard plains, throwing a ghostly silver over twisted hulls and shattered starship bones. Among the labyrinth of metal ruins lived Jace Corn, a human mechanic who liked his solitude as much as he liked things that still obeyed physics. He was one of the few humans who'd stay behind after the galactic exodus, a relic among the relics, patching up derelicts for a few credits and a good story. Jace's days were long and quiet, until the night the refugees fell from the sky. He was tightening a plasma coupling when he heard the unmistakable sound of re-entry fire. Two somethings had crash-landed behind the ridge of junk. He dropped his torch, grabbed his plasma rifle, and ran toward the smoke. The first thing he saw was a shuttle, a broken husk half buried in slag. The second thing was a sound, a whimper, high and soft, almost like a cry. And then he saw them, 2 small creatures crouched among the wreckage. Scales glimmered faintly under the soot, blue and green with streaks of gold, and their wings were ragged and smoking. Dragons, at least the closest thing the galaxy had to them. Tiny, trembling, eyes wide with fear and hunger. They couldn't have been more than hatchlings. Jace lowered his weapon. "Hey," he said gently, "you kids lost." The smaller one hissed weakly, sparks fluttering from her nostrils. The other just whimpered again, curling protectively around her sibling. Jace sighed. Of course. Dragons. Refugees. And me with only one functioning medbot. He looked around. The crash had been bad. Whoever had flown them here was gone. Burned out cockpit. 2 sets of charred bones. The escape module had ejected but failed to clear atmosphere. The hatchlings were alone. Jace's instinct said walk away. But something about their shivering bodies, their hunger, stirred the part of him that had once been human enough to care. He fetched a thermal blanket, a power cell, and a ration pack from his tool crate. "You're in luck," he muttered, tearing open a protein slab. "Dinner's on me." The little dragon sniffed it suspiciously, then pounced. They ate like creatures who hadn't eaten in days. Perhaps longer. When they were done, the smaller one nosed at his hand. Her scales flickered pink and gold as if blushing. Jace chuckled. "Guess you're staying." He built them a small den in one of the gutted cargo pods, lined it with insulation foam, and patched a heat coil through the night. The dragons, he named them Gala and Myn, slept curled against each other, tiny sparks of warmth in the cold, dead yard. He didn't know then that feeding those two would change not just his life, but the fate of an empire. Middle, the 5-year fire. Time, as it does, slipped quietly by. 5 years later, the scrapyard was less a graveyard and more a nest. Dragons grew fast. Gala, the green-scale one, was now the size of a shuttle, wings spanning 30 meters. Myn, smaller but sleeker, could outfly most atmospheric interceptors. Jace's once quiet existence had turned into a daily adventure of repairing things that dragons accidentally crushed, singed, or stole for their hoard. Still, he didn't mind. He'd grown used to their presence, their intelligence, their loyalty. They spoke in clicks, gestures, and the low-frequency hums that vibrated the air. He built translator implants to bridge the gap. Through them, he learned that Gala and Myn weren't just refugees. They were royal-born, the last hatchlings of the imperial dragon line of the planet Drevora. Drevora had fallen to Zenith Dominion, a machine empire that burned planets to fuel their reactors. The royal brood had been smuggled away, their guardians dying in the attempt. And somehow fate, or cosmic irony, had dropped them into the lap of a grumpy human mechanic who lived off junk. "Gala," Jace would say while welding a thruster, "you know you're sitting on my power conduit again." "I protect," Gala would reply proud. "Metal burns." Jace burns. "No, burn." "I'm fine, kid. You're crushing the oxygen tanks." She'd huff a puff of smoke and move. Barely. Life was chaos, but a good kind of chaos. Then came the day the sky burned again. It started with ripple in the ionosphere, followed by a fleet of shadows blotting out the suns. Zenith warships. Not scavenger drones, not raiders, flagships. Their triangular hulls gleamed like obsidian teeth. Jace's sensors screamed warnings. "They've tracked us," Myn growled. His voice had deepened to a resonant rumble that made metal vibrate. "The Dominion hunts royal blood." Jace's heart sank. "How do they even know you're alive?" "Because the Empress's signature is mine," Gala said softly. "My mother marked me. When she died, that mark passed through the bloodline." Jace looked at her, glittering scales, eyes burning emerald. The Empress's legacy. "How many ships?" he asked. 20, Myn said. "Maybe more." "Well," Jace said, grabbing his wrench and turning toward the buried hangar beneath the scrapyard. "Good thing I've been building something for just this kind of emergency." They followed him into the underground vault, a massive space carved from the bones of old starliners. There sat his pride and madness. The Aegis Dawn, a refitted freighter patched with alien tech, thruster cores, and enough firepower to make a pirate captain blush. You built a warship out of junk, Gala said in awe. He grinned. I prefer the term ugly miracle. They didn't have time for much else. The Dominion ships descended, atmosphere roaring as plasma trails cut through the sky. Jace and MYRN scrambled to power up the Dawn, while Gala took to the air, defiant against a fleet that had destroyed her world. The first salvo struck the ground near the yard, shockwaves flattening towers of wreckage. Jace's comms flared alive with panic. Gala, pull back. You'll get shredded. But Gala only roared, her flames slicing through a Zenith interceptor. Not again. I will not flee again. She was magnificent, a living comet blazing through clouds. The Zenith responded with precision, beams of white fire, synchronized volleys, netting her in plasma chains. MYRN dubbed her aid, snapping through drones like paper. Jace screamed into the comms, systems flaring red as the Aegis Dawn launched. Get inside. Now. They didn't. They fought, until one beam hit Gala's left wing. She spiraled down, crashing in a whirl of molten earth. Jace's world went white. Turning point. Ashes and awakening. When he came to, the yard was half gone. Smoke, fire, and silence. MYRN was dragging him from the wreckage, bleeding from several plasma burns. Gala lay nearby, unmoving. No, Jace rasped, stumbling to her side. Her scales were dull, blackened. He placed a hand on her chest. No rhythm, no warmth. She gave everything, MYRN said hoarsely. To save you. Jace clenched his fists, tears streaking the soot. No, not again. I lost my crew on Pharos 6, and I won't lose her. He sprinted to his workshop, throwing open every containment lock. He had one idea. Dangerous, stupid, but maybe their only chance. A fusion heart core, originally meant for Starship Resurrection. Reigniting a dead reactor. He built it years ago, theorizing it could jumpstart anything with a bioelectric field, including a dragon. He jammed the heart against Gala's chest, wires crackling, power surging. Come on, kid. You owe me a melted oxygen tank. The pulse hit like a sun. For a moment, the air screamed. Then silence. Then heartbeat. A slow, thunderous rhythm that made the ground tremble. Gala's eyes snapped open, molten gold. The mark of the Empress blazed across her forehead. She rose, not as a hatchling, but something more. Her scales glowed with living plasma, her wings shimmering like solar sails. She wasn't just a dragon now. She was a beacon, a conduit of Dravora's ancient power. Jace, she said softly, you brought me back. Yeah, he said, voice shaking. Don't make me do it again. MYRN knelt beside her. Sister, you shine like the mother flame. The bloodline awakens, Gala whispered. The Dominion will burn for this. Above them, the fleet began to reorganize. Sensors pinged. The Zenith were preparing orbital annihilation. Jace wiped the sweat from his brow and turned toward the Aegis Dawn. Then let's show them what junkyard engineering can do. Climax, the Empress returns. The Battle of Varela. 9 would be remembered across 10 star systems, though few believed the reports. The Aegis Dawn roared into orbit, engines howling like dragons. Gala and MYRN soared alongside, weaving between enemy fire. Jace piloted from the bridge. Systems overclocked, reactors screaming. His voice echoed through the comms. Target their core ships. Take out their control nodes, and the rest will scatter. Gala dove, unleashing a beam of pure plasma from her throat, an ancient Draven ability awakened by her rebirth. The lead cruiser shattered, molten metal raining into the clouds. MYRN circled wide, tail slamming through drones, tearing open their hulls. The Zenith responded, forming a kill grid. Beams crisscrossed the sky, converging on Gala. The Aegis Dawn interposed itself, taking the brunt of the blast. Shields flared and failed. Jace gritted his teeth. Come on, girl. One last push. Gala's voice resonated across every frequency. No. Together. Her scales blazed, linking with the Dawn's reactors through the fusion resonance heat installed. Man and dragon became one machine, one pulse of defiance against extinction. They fired. The combined surge tore through the Zenith mothership. It exploded in a halo of light that turned night into dawn. The remaining ships faltered, then retreated, leaderless, broken. The battle was over. The world was quiet again. Ending. The Empress and the mechanic. Weeks later, the scrapyard was rebuilt, or what was left of it. The sky was blue again. MYRN had flown off to rally surviving Dravran scattered across the galaxy. Gala stayed behind, perched atop the ridge, watching the twin suns rise. Jay stood beside her, leaning on his wrench. So, he said, what now? You're technically an empress, right? She smiled, scales glinting gold. An empress needs a realm, but I would rather build and rule. Good, he said, smirking. I've had enough rulers to last a lifetime. Gala looked down at him, eyes soft. You gave life back to a dying flame, Jace. My people will sing of it. I just fixed a broken thing, he said. It's what I do. You fix me. They stood in silence, the wind carrying the faint scent of ozone and ash. Gala spread her wings, massive and radiant. When the Dravarans return, they will need a world to rebuild. Varela can be that world. And who's going to lead them? Jace asked. She smiled. The Empress G, and her chief mechanic. He snorted. That's a terrible title. You'll get used to it. When she took off, the light washed over him. A sunrise of molten gold and reborn hope. The girl he'd once fed from a ration pack now soared as a living star, and Jace, scrap dealer, cynic, accidental hero, watched her vanish into the heavens, laughing quietly to himself. Guess I'll need a bigger workshop. Above, Gala's roar echoed across the dawn, a promise written in flame. No empire lasts forever. But kindness, that's eternal.